the contentious co-location plan, and Article 23 legislation. And welcoming in 2018 with the biggest bang. A look at how Hong Kong celebrated the new year. Well, first up tonight, a New Year's address with a chilling threat. North Korea's leader has marked the start of 2018 by warning the nuclear button is, quote, on his desk, while announcing plans to mass-produce warheads and ballistic missiles. In his televised address, Kim Jong-un also spoke about the importance of easing tensions on the Korean peninsula, though, and improving relations with the South. He said he'll consider sending a delegation to next month's Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. But with Pyongyan's continued nuclear and missile tests proving its weapons technology is advancing, Kim's warning to Washington is set to raise alarm bells in the international community.
The entire United States is within range of our nuclear weapons, and a nuclear button is always on my desk. This is reality, not a threat. This year, we should focus on mass-producing nuclear warheads and ballistic missiles for operational deployment.
Now, for more on this story, here's our correspondent Joseph Kim in Seoul.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un marked the new year, as he customarily does, by giving a speech. This speech has, in the past, given us indications as to what the North Korean leadership would focus on and what direction they'd be taking for the new year. Last year, Kim Jong-un promised to be able to make an intercontinental ballistic missile. And after several tests throughout 2017, it seemed North Korea had accomplished this goal. This year, Kim Jong-un declared North Korea a completed nuclear state, one that the United States could not start a war with, ordering mass productions of warheads and ballistic missiles. But while the speech heavily focused on deterrence against the United States, it also took a softer tone with its neighbor, South Korea, wishing success to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and opening up the possibility of sending a delegation to the event, as well as the possibility of dialogue. Still, publicly, North Korea has continued to maintain that it's ready for dialogue. But when the time had come, like last year when South Korea offered official talks, North Korea has remained silent.
That's Joseph Kim reporting from Seoul in South Korea. Now to some local news now. Hong Kong kicked off its new year with the annual rally organised by Civil Human Rights Front as demonstrators protested the joint immigration arrangements and national security legislation. Members of the Democratic Party and Labour Party were also among those who marched from Causeway Bay to the Tamar government headquarters this afternoon. They voiced their anger over the changes of LegCo's procedural rules and called for the release of Liu Xia, the widow of Nobel Peace Laureate Liu Xiaobo. For the first time in more than 3 years, protesters were allowed to end their march at the East Wing forecourt, commonly known as Civic Square, where the organiser isn't happy about the government's restrictions on the newly reopened site.
We chose to set our rally stage outside the Civic Square as a response to the restriction put on the reopened site. It's really opened for staff and vehicles as a drop-off point, not for civil society. Therefore, we won't use the square, and we disagree that this is considered opened up.
Well, a new year also means new price tags for several services in the city. From today, electricity will be more expensive, rising at 1.9%. CLP Power is now charging a little over $1.15 per unit, while Hong Kong Electric has upped its prices to $1.12. Sending letters will also cost more, $2 instead of $1.70 for local mail. Drivers will also need to pay attention with price hikes impacting Housing Authority car parks. Hourly rates will increase by $2, while the monthly parking fee is going up by around 6%. Well, the new year was rung in with a bang. A few loud ones, in fact. Take a look. Well, Hong Kong put on its largest fireworks show ever, with pyrotechnics from land and sea wowing spectators for a full 10 minutes. Over in Taiwan, fireworks were shot from the iconic Taipei 101 Tower to welcome in the new year. Hours earlier, Australia saw spectacular fireworks light up the famous Sydney Harbour Bridge. Now, over in Europe, Paris rang in 2018 with video animation and fireworks. As for the New Year's celebrations across the UK, here's Diane with the details.
London's Big Ben helps crowds ring in the new year. Big Ben's chimes had been silent since August for a 4-year-long restoration project, but the famous clock was temporarily turned back on to help Londoners ring in 2018. More than 100,000 people gathered on the banks of the River Thames to greet the new year. The festivities included a midnight fireworks display, choreographed to the music of various female artists to mark the 100th anniversary of women winning the right to vote. Security was tight after a wave of terror attacks around the globe. Armed police accompanied by dogs patrolled the streets. No problems were reported.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump struck a positive tone and predicts a fantastic 2018 as he attended his New Year party at his lavish Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. Flying by First Lady Melania and his son Barron, Trump highlighted his achievements in 2017.
We're off to a very good start, as you know, with the great tax cuts and ANWR and getting rid of the individual mandate, which was very, very unpopular, as you know. But we are going to have a tremendous year. The stock market, I think, is going to continue to go up. Companies are going to continue to come into the country. We'll see. We'll see. Come on inside, folks.
Well, in Beijing, New Year's Day marks the end of an era for the city's daily flag-raising ceremony in Tiananmen Square. Starting from today, the People's Liberation Army takes over responsibility for the Sunrise event from the paramilitary police. Nearly 100 soldiers and more than 90,000 people have taken part in it, according to Xinhua. The switch comes after China decided to put its 1.5 million paramilitary police under the command of Central Military Commission, which is led by President Xi Jinping. The move is seen as a latest sign of the Communist Party's efforts to consolidate power. To Iran now, where anti-government protests have continued to sweep the streets of major cities, despite the president's warnings of a tough crackdown. Hassan Rouhani says Iranians have the right to demonstrate, but must avoid violence. Julian Kitchener has more.
In his first public address since anti-government protests swept Iranian